in the dying embers of human existence, as the asteroid, a behemoth the size of Texas, hurtles relentlessly toward Earth, the world braces for an apocalyptic end. Deep beneath the bunker, a refuge plunges into the bowels of the Earth. Here the chosen gather, their purpose clear, to preserve the very soul of our civilization. The 35 and 70 millimeter prints that encapsulate the magic, the emotion, and the dreams of generations past. These masterpieces, each frame a testament to the human spirit, are carefully cataloged and cradled in the cavernous confines of the bunker. Perhaps there was room for more, for friends and family yearning for salvation, but sacrifices must be made. The movie nerds stand united, the keepers of a flame, promising a future where the art of storytelling endures, transcending the boundaries of time and space. God help us all.
Welcome to Back to the Frame Rate, part of the Weston Media Podcast Network. Join us as we watch and discuss films on VOD and streaming platforms, deliberating on whether each one is worthy of salvation or destined for destruction in the face of the impending asteroid apocalypse. You can find more episodes of this podcast on backtotheframerate.com, where you can subscribe and share our shows, and find us on our socials at Back to the Frame Rate. I am Nathan Schur, and accompanying me is the extraordinary movie maven, Brianna Budworth. Sam is out on assignment this week, I guess we'll say. Boo, I know. So he will not be joining us, but we have a very special guest. Joining us is screenwriter and playwright Duncan Pflaster. How are you?
Good. I'm happy to be here.
Did I say your last name right?
Yes, it's Pflaster. It's just a
okay. It's funny thing is I've known you. You know, we've been like Facebook friends for ages, but I don't think I've ever had to say your name out loud.
Yeah, we've only met in person like once or twice.
Once or twice. I was in a play, a small part in a play, in Lenny Schwartz's play, Me 3. And I remember we met down in New York at, what theater was it? And I forget.
Oh, Lenny's the great connector.
Yeah. Lenny, I mean, when you have like 5,000 Facebook friends and just, yeah, he's great. I mean, he brings us all together. Yeah. But yeah, he was on the show a couple weeks ago. We did our Furiosa review and he was on for that. But yeah, thank you for joining us, Duncan. And I have a couple questions for you. But first, I just want you to introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do. What are you about?
My name is Duncan Pflaster, Pflaster. I'm mainly a playwright. I've written 40 plays, mainly indie. I live in New York. I've had a couple movies out there, Strapped for Danger, and I've written on a couple of others, and that's about it.
I've seen those. They are a riot. They are a lot of fun. Yeah. Again, for a common mutual friend of ours, Richard Griffin, who I have worked with as well, those movies. So yes. Fantastic. And anything that you are working on right now that you want to mention?
Well, the aforementioned Richard Griffin has put together an ongoing series called Pansy Vision.
Yes.
Which is a fake history of gay movies throughout the world.
That sounds fun.
He got a bunch of his favorite writers together to write vignettes from different decades, imagining what it would be like if there were gay characters allowed. And so I have written a couple of them, but they're dropping them every Saturday. And so the only one of mine that's out there now is the 1950s biblical epic about David and Jonathan. And you can check that on YouTube. Check out the Pansy Vision thing. They're all very short and fun, and they have a host, and it's great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really fun.
It is on. I have not had a chance, I'll admit, I have not had a chance to watch them, but like he's been pushing them really hard, and I just need to put aside an evening where I just marathon through these because I can't wait to watch these. And
they're all very, very funny.
They look like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And there's so many actors and performers. I mean, like it's such a small community. A lot of these are local actors from the Rhode Island, Massachusetts area, and I know so many of them. So I can't wait to watch these. So yeah. And we share a lot of the same talent, the community of actors. So it's great. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyways, so that's great. Definitely I would love for you to plug where people can find you and your work, Duncan. I mean, we'll put it at the end of the show as well, but where's the best place for people to find what you're working on and what you're doing?
So the best place is my website, which is duncanpflaster.com, DUNCAN, PFLASTER.com.
Excellent.
I have everything there, and you can sign up for my whenever I feel like it email blast that goes out usually monthly, sometimes more if I'm working on something pending, but that's the best place to go.
That's
Excellent.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Usually monthly. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
And that usually gets hooked up to my book page for Duncan Pflaster, the playwright, and my Twitter and whatever.
Awesome.
All right. Well, we'll be sure to put your website handles, all that in the show notes as well.
Amazing.
So, Duncan, before we continue, I want to ask you something that I ask all of our guests on the podcast. And this kind of helps us get to know you a little bit more about your filmmaking taste. This is the most important part of the show. Are you ready?
Yeah.
This is key. This is key. What is the first movie you remember seeing in the theater?
The Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being there with my family and covering my eyes from.
But don't speak too much more about it, because somebody here has never seen it, and it's actually going to be a retrospective next month, and it's not me. But
I was going to say, and that someone is Nathan.
Well, there is a moment that I think is kind of mimetic that has snakes in it, and from that point on, I was covering my eyes because I was kind of too young to watch it.
Mm.
But yeah, it was really thrilling. But that's
Yeah.
the
Oh my
first one.
gosh.
it's great, yeah. All right, Duncan, what is the last movie you watched outside of this, in case this is the last one you saw?
It was Anyone But You,
Mm.
the recent romantic comedy that's loosely inspired by Much Ado About Nothing. It's cute.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how they kind of subvert a lot of romantic comedy tropes. Like even the ones from Much Ado About Nothing, which is like stealing the Beatrice Benedict
Mhm.
thing. They just joke about how stupid some of the plot contrivances are within
Yeah.
the thing. And it's cute. It's nice.
I'm fine with Glenn Powell vehicles right now, too.
Yeah, I like them.
He's
in
on the
Hitman
rise.
also. I just
Yeah.
he's doing good.
Yeah.
All right, this is a big one here.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite movie
Queen's
right
Logic.
now? What is it?
Queen's Logic. Nobody has heard of it. It's got
Is it-
Kevin Bacon and Linda Fiorentino and John Malkovich and Chloe Webb and Joe Mantegna, and there you are, a whole bunch of fantastic people. Ken Olin. It's great. It's been my favorite since it came out in the early 90s.
So this is like a movie cover I've seen many, many times. I just didn't ever notice it before, but yes.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I
Great
really
ensemble.
love it, and I think it's very underrated. And it's usually, I think you can find it on Tubi if you're looking for it.
Oh, I love Tubi.
Wow.
Tubi's great.
Oh, wow. Okay. This is something that's really off my radar. So this is good to know. All right.
Add to watch list.
All right. Yeah. So, and this is a big one. What's a movie that you credit for turning you into a cinephile? The creepiest word in existence.
Probably Labyrinth.
Oh, yes.
Like I saw a commercial for that at my grandma's house. I remember distinctly it coming on TV, and I was like, I know what George Lucas is. I know what the Muppets are. I'm not sure about a David Bowie, but sounds cool. And like the original commercial just like blew my mind. I was like, I need to go to that. Take me to that right now. And I saw it, and it's fantastic.
Okay.
I always credit Labyrinth with my bisexual awakening as a young child, just seeing David Bowie and Jennifer Connelly.
Oh my God.
This growing girl. Yeah. It's a confusing movie.
I'm gonna test out a fifth question here, and only because I might replace it at some point. What's a movie that scares you?
Ooh. And why is it Labyrinth? No.
I don't know if I really get scared by movies.
Yeah, no,
I don't watch a lot of horror films.
doesn't have to be horror, but
I mean, the scariest moment for me is in Steel Magnolias when Julia Roberts is like passed out and like her daughter is screaming, left alone in the house. That always freaks me out for some reason, like chills.
Yeah.
And,
It's powerful.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So before we proceed with this, I have an important question for both of you, and I spring this on whoever is opposite me on my screen here. It could be my co-host, it could be the guests here. So these are always terrible. All right. I don't know if you've listened to our show. They go off the rails in a horrible way all the time. But my question for both of you today, and so a production of a play about the story of your life is being produced. And simple questions here, two of them, basically. Who do you want portraying you in the lead role in the stage adaptation? And more importantly, you can only choose between the following three types of audiences to attend this production. One is the members of the Flat Earth Society. Two, disgraced former members of Doctors Without Borders. Or three, members of the Droogs, the fictional gang from Clockwork Orange, who have now been imprisoned. But if you choose this group, you must incorporate the number Cell Block Tango from Chicago into your production. Who's going first?
That's honestly a banger number. Duncan, do you have any immediate thoughts here, Duncan?
I always say Sean Astin would probably be best to portray me.
Okay.
We're kind of simpatico that way.
I love that.
All right.
Yeah, and I think the Droogs. I love the Droogs, and I love Cell Block Tango. So I'm all
Okay. Sure. Yeah. It's just good to get a sense of who you are before we dive into this.
Yes.
All right. For sure, my audience is disgraced members of Doctors Without Borders. Like 100%. That's not even a question. They are so smart still. Okay. They're doctors. So let's calm down. I always struggle with, they're borderless. They're doctors. What do you want? I always struggle with who I think should play me. That's always really hard. So I'm just going to lean into Nicolas Cage as the option here.
Okay. Nothing he can't do. So
No,
right. The dude's got range, and I feel like the disgraced doctors would be on board for any like meta kind of irony. I'm picturing, late stage Nick Cage.
Okay.
Maybe one of them could take his face off.
Oh.
I see what you did there. All right.
Yeah. More of that. That's good.
Yeah.
Switch faces with you. This all makes sense now.
Well, the film that we watched, Anna,
if you couldn't tell,
because there was really no connective tissue at all in that question, is we watched 1996 film Lilies from, all my notes are missing here, but from John Greyson, director John Greyson. And this is what we watched this week. And I'm looking forward to hearing everyone's opinion on this. But before I do, I have a trailer and a plot synopsis. Let me do the plot synopsis first. All right. When a bishop comes to a prison to hear the confessions of an old friend, he is forced to watch a play performed by the inmates about their youth together, love, and betrayal. This is right off the internet. I didn't do any interpretation at all. But
I mean, so far so good.
I want to hear interpretation of this plot. I like to ask my 12-year-old daughter, almost 13, what she thinks of a movie's title, not knowing anything about the movie. Problem is, she knows that we're in the middle of Pride Month, so she's kind of trying to force it.
Clocked in.
I wish she didn't know this because it's being forced. But here we go. Anyways, this is what my daughter Chloe thinks the movie Lilies is about.
I think that the movie Lilies, it's about these three lilies that are like triplets, and one of them figuring out everything in her life, and the other two are trying to help her, and then towards the end they're like all different sexualities, and they go through like different like romantic relationships, and they each try to help each other get through it all, and in the end they all are happy.
Spot on.
I mean, it is about three lilies who are in different relationships. It's just a real optimistic take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So optimistic.
And like I said, I have a part of the trailer for this. I'll drop this in.
I am
right
very
here.
intrigued. I haven't done any trailer watching for this.
Yes, I haven't either.
I've actually stopped watching trailers almost altogether, at least for this podcast, because I like to go with completely blind for a lot of these movies these days.
But the 90s were a golden era.
Oh, yeah.
You know, see what happens.
It was very brave of you to come here today. I'm about to commit the sin of revenge.
Gloria in excelsis, Gloria in excelsis Deum, et in terra pax omnia.
Those are memories long forgotten. There's going to be sacrilege and remorse.
What's the point of praying? What's the point of suffering if you don't even listen to us?
There's going to be lots of forbidden memories. I prayed for the person I loved most in this world.
All right, that was the trailer for Lilies. All right, so let's get to our discussion of Lilies. And because we don't have Sam this week, I don't really think we have much to say. We don't have our connoisseur of movie facts. I don't know if BU have anything to bring to this. I mean, a couple of things I can bring up. I did look on the wiki page and Box Office Mojo. I did see that the budget for this was 2.2 million Canadian. Box office looked like it was really almost nothing, like 300,000 at most. It came out debuted at TIFF on September 7th, 1996. And I guess it had an American debut on October 10th, 1997. At that time, it was number 22 at the box office, breaking in $28,000 approximately. Yeah.
And I should say there's a new 4K restoration of this that just came out and is on the Criterion channel, and they have a Blu-ray DVD coming out next month in July.
Oh.
Which is why I suggested this in the first place. But,
okay, cool.
I was wondering what made this your pick. Yeah.
Also debuting on this date on the U.S. box office was 7 Years in Tibet and Rocket Man, not the Elton John biopic, but some other film that honestly I have no recollection of.
with Harlan Williams, the comedy where he's like an astronaut?
Oh,
maybe.
I don't know. I don't know. But number one at the box office at the time of this release was Kiss the Girls, the first film to be adapted from the Alex Cross book series with Morgan Freeman. I was checking on that. So yeah, a little bit of trivia. I think I did find that John Greyson was part of a group of filmmakers who emerged in the 80s known as the Toronto New Wave, which I didn't know. Greyson is also a professor at York University Film School. By the way, this Toronto New Wave, going back to the box office, this debuted one slot behind a movie called The Sweet Hereafter, which was directed by Adam, Egoyan, who was also part of the Toronto New Wave as well. So both these filmmakers from this group had a movie debut at the same time, one slot apart from each other on the box office. It was adapted from a play of a Canadian playwright. Is it Michael Marc Bouchard?
Michel Marc Bouchard.
Okay, titled Les Fouettes. I don't speak French. Un drame romantique, something like that. And it was also adapted as an opera and premiered in British Columbia in 2017.
Cool.
So that's all I got for movie facts. Come back, Sam.
Michel Marc Bouchard is actually in the film as a cameo. He's the photographer in any scenes where you see somebody taking a picture. That's him.
Oh, okay. All right, great. All right, so let's get to it. You are our guest of honor, Duncan. Please give us your thoughts, your opinions on Lilies.
Well, I love this movie. I think it's beautiful to look at and very desperately romantic and beautiful. I found out about it because my friend Tessa Fox, who is another playwright, and she was obsessed with Brent Carver, who plays the Countess in it.
One of my favorite characters.
Yeah,
in this film. Yes.
Incredible work. He, of course, was on Broadway in Kiss of the Spider Woman and Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings musical. He's dead now, and the last time I watched this movie was after he died. I found it on some obscure channel and watched it then. But yeah, it's a beautiful film. I've seen the play as well. Somebody was doing it in New York. It was the first thing I saw coming back from the pandemic. Like there were still seats between people, and I saw it in Times Square. And it's a very faithful adaptation of the play, although the movie gives it a much more metatextual visual aspect to it because so much of it is done as real life rather than I should say the play is about prisoners putting on a play, and all of the prisoners are male and they play all the roles, both male and female. And in the film, they shoot it partly as like a real movie with still the male actors playing the female roles and switching back and forth between them as prisoners and as the characters they're portraying in flashback.
Okay. If you were to give this a rating from 1 to 5, Duncan, what would you do?
4.5 at the least, possibly a 5. I gave it a 5 on Letterboxd last night.
Hey.
So it's a 5.
You can give it a 5. Yeah.
Letterboxd is law for us.
Yeah.
All right.
That's terrifying.
It's a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Letterboxd is law.
Letterboxd is law.
B.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you, Duncan, because I had never even heard of this movie. Yeah. And then Nathan said we were doing it for the pod, and I was like, absolutely. I am very happy to watch some obscure cinema, especially for this. I think it's important. I thought this was really beautiful. I started watching it and was just not in the headspace to focus on it. And my viewing experience for the first 40 minutes, the first time I tried to watch it, was not great. And I was like, I got to give this another shot. And I just ended up restarting it and was like, I have to restart it when I can give this my undivided attention. And it totally changed my experience of the film. It's a movie that demands attention. You have to focus on it, but it, I think, rewards you for that. The world, like you were saying, Duncan, it is just beautiful in this very specifically 90s kind of way. It's a little bit ethereal. It has that really soft lighting that works for the play within the play within the play that they're putting on for their Catholic school, right? And it's, watching it, I was like, there's a little bit of everything. It's a little bit Shakespeare. It's a little bit Dead Poets Society. It's a little bit Greg Akari. It's a little bit, it's pulling from all kinds of really interesting places. But the performances, you mentioned Carver. That's just a stunning performance throughout
He's
the
incredible
film.
in this. He was
scene stealer, so great. Mm-hmm. I think there's, it's a big conceit. I don't think it always works, that switchback between when it looks like a flashback and when it looks like, back in the prison. That works most of the time. I think some of the time it takes you out of the storytelling a little bit. Some pacing stuff, it's pretty minor. The movie moves pretty well, but sometimes it's almost so languid. I wish it stayed there and slowed down a little and would have benefited the story and let it breathe a little more, especially towards the end. But I thought the characters were so great at playing like not professional actors and then being really good actors, so for that sort of metatextual context. And just the story, that revenge story was powerful. And that other side of revenge, the flip side of the coin, that redemption arc of a man saying like, look, I've been waiting my whole life to talk about my true love and what really happened. I mean, wow, it's just a gut punch right at the end. Totally. So I really enjoyed it. I'm glad I restarted it and tried again. Didn't second screen it. For me, it's a 4. Super solid.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Me and B were talking offline before you came on, Duncan, about how I think we both had a very similar experience where we were having a hard time at first watching this. One of the things I am grateful for with this podcast is that they have the opportunities to become exposed to new films,
For
new
sure.
filmmakers, different genres that I never would have sought out otherwise. And whether I love or hate a movie, I still find it fascinating to explore as much as I can about a movie that we're talking about.
Mhm.
But damn, all of the films we've watched for this podcast, which is probably now over like 60 or so, this one takes the cake for being the most obscure. And I was so frustrated because outside of the wiki page, I could not find anything
Yeah.
online about this film. No interviews with the director or the cast, not even as much as a commentary on the movie, other than a few reviews. And I don't count like, random people's opinions or letterbox reviews as content for this. But I was really frustrated because I really do put in time to research, interviews and behind the scenes stuff. And I was like, I felt so naked going into this. And I watched this movie 6 days ago at first, and I felt empty. Like I'll be honest, my original review of this was a really low score because I was not engaged in this. And I think it's because of the framing device.
It's
The
hard.
way the story was told. I was having such a hard time wrapping my head around it. And what's going on here? I mean, we got a film within a play, within a film, also based on a play, by the way. So it's too many like windows that we're looking through here. Literally, it's the bishop and it's like
locked in the
through
confessional.
I feel like we're constantly like looking through these eyepieces here, and I had a hard time. Like, where are we as the audience member? I had a hard time. Where am I sitting and looking at this performance from? Where is my perspective? And I felt like my perspective kept changing. They kept pulling out the rug from under me, and I didn't know what was going on half the time. And I felt like I was just catching up to just the storytelling framing device. And I couldn't even find like myself finding my place in the story. Now, that was the beginning of my experience. I watched this again last night, and after time where I had time to digest this, I took a 180-degree look at this, and I had a much more enjoyable time watching it now, realizing that what the filmmaker's trying to do here. So I had a much better time. Now, I haven't really said much about the movie because I think there is a lot of really good things happening in this movie. I thought this movie is held together by some outstanding performances, especially the three young leads in this. Owen Valier Bilodeau, I think is his name. Those three are really, really good in this. I did not love the two older actors as much. I thought the older Simone, I don't know. I forget who the actor's name was in that.
But we don't spend a lot of time with them.
We don't, but I could have watched the whole movie in this reality of the film that we're watching, not in the prison. I did not like coming back to the prison. I would have liked the whole movie. Just show me the flashback or show me that world. So, and every time we kept coming back, it was so seamless, which was kind of a cool thing. But at the same time, I needed a better transition to bring me back or something. I don't know. Also, and again, I'm kind of going off here a little bit. The cinematography in this, I have a very mixed feelings about. It has that very soft 90s feel to it, but it also is teetering the line on, I felt like I was watching a TV movie or a soap opera. That's
the Greg Araki.
There's so much of I don't know. It just had that. There's so many arbitrary camera moves in this. Like, I don't know, unmotivated things that I felt like were happening with this or that just felt random to me. Some of them were really beautiful. I love just this flexible reality. Like, there's a time where the bishop is in the confessional, and there's the moment where the balloon is floating in the space. All of a sudden they open up above the confessional, and there's the blue sky above them. Moments like that are really cool, and it's a great use. It's a great creative moment. And if the movie probably did that more, I would have. I like that. but there was just times where there was so many clunky, bad TV moments I felt like I was witnessing. Anyways, I talked about the performances. We've already mentioned it before. The young actors were great, but Brent Carver stole this movie as the Countess. He brought a sensitivity and vulnerability to his role. Every moment he's on screen, I found myself perking up, leaning in, because there was so much heart with that character. And I want to talk more about all the performances here. I've gone on way too long, but I liked this movie on second viewing. I still don't love it because there's so much that I'm confused about still. I don't know why characters did some things, and I'm not fully, I wasn't 100% engaged with it. I'm still at a 3 with this. So I liked it. I don't love it.
Dunk in your face. You're like, what?
It can be confusing. The first time I saw it, I didn't understand a lot of what was going on. I think it's deliberately oblique in a lot of ways.
And I might love this even more on a third watch. And I'm not against not seeing this again. I telling you, this movie was a 1.5 the first time I watched this. I went from a 1.5 to a 3. So by that logic, this might be a 6 next time. Who knows
right.
if it keeps doubling, but that's where I'm at. It definitely is not a bad movie at all. And there's a lot of good things in this film. It's very unique, very unusual, and some solid things in it. I'm sorry, I've gone on way too long, but there you go. Where can we go? Where should we go from here with this? There's definitely a lot of directions.
Yeah. So, talk about the great thing about this movie and the sort of, I don't want to say TV quality, but kind of TV quality stuff sort of bumping up against each other right away, which I also think is so wonderfully of the time. That opening shot of the priest eating the orange, I was like, ooh, what's going to happen? Is this a sort of pseudo artistic shot, or is this like a predicating something that's about both? And then you're immediately thrust into the play, which is the subject of the flashback within the movie. And this, it sort of tells you right away. I mean, I guess you see the prison first, but it sort of tells you right away, which is why I think if you don't catch this movie immediately in a focused mindset and you're not second screening right away, there's not a lot of opportunities for engagement subsequently. Like a lot of modern movies, there's an action sequence or there's something later on that you can get back into the movie that way if you sort of lose your way. The access point is only in the beginning here, and you get the 2 setup shots of inside the prison. The priest is called in, they're in a confessional, and it's, you look different.
Yeah.
You don't look like, and immediately you're like, each other, and then bam, they're on the stage and they're back as young boys again, which I just thought was really great storytelling.
Yeah.
Once I tried again.
And I did realize this time that at the very, very, very beginning, there's a quick shot from later in the film of the 2 guys when they're in the bathtub, their faces reflected in the water. Very, very briefly. I'd never noticed it before. I was just like, that's so cool.
See, that makes me want the Blu-ray you were talking about. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, the storytelling just happens right at the beginning of this movie. You know the entire conceit, and then you just sort of watch how it happened to get you up to that point for an hour and a half. And then the last 10 minutes is the conclusion. But everything that you're supposed to know, with, I would say, the only notable exception being the Brent Carver character, the Countess, right away, really. You're introduced to the 3 young boys, and you kind of immediately get that dynamic of 2 of them, being in young love and being playful, and there being some hesitancy maybe, and then this jealous third character that comes in. It does feel very Shakespearean to me.
I want to say something about the opening, because knowing absolutely nothing about this movie headed into it. I mean, I didn't even read a plot synopsis. I just wanted to go in blind. And I'm watching the opening of this, and I've seen probably way too many horror movies. But when they lock the priest in there, I'm thinking
Exorcist.
Saw. I'm thinking Saw. Something terrible is going to happen to this priest. Like, they're going to off this guy.
I mean,
Like-
something terrible does happen. They don't
like-
kill him.
no, it does happen. I'm thinking like he's like the door is locked. The door is stuck. The door is not stuck. And like, oh, he's dead. He's dead. This guy's dead. And the way that they're like locking him in there, and there's like this big setup. And in the way that the older Simone's speaking, there's going to be like sin, and there's going to be revenge, and there's like this guy is so screwed.
I know, but then you're introduced to just this merry band of queer prisoners who are putting on a play, and it does really strike that balance of Black comedy so well. And again, I think you have to be keyed into it to see it and to find it. But once you get in the groove with this movie, you're sitting down, you're into it. It's pretty funny. It has some really funny moments. And I think the cast of this play is part of it. And they get to show up again as themselves a few times later in the film and just really defend their own and defend this love story in a way that is brassy and ballsy and funny. It's a huge fan. Huge fan.
Yeah, especially the actor who plays Lady Anne,
I was just thinking of him. Yeah.
In the flashback scene, she's such a sweet romantic, and then in the scenes where he's a prisoner, he's like, "Hey, whatever," and he's like chewing gum. It's just like a complete 180 from the character.
So, something that I thought was very interesting and clever, and maybe this is something that you're mentioning, is that, and I'm gonna trip over myself as I explain this, because I really don't know how to, because I've never seen this done in a movie, is that in all the scenes, and I guess we can call it a flashback scene, because it's not even really a flashback. It's something that I've never seen done in a movie
something
before.
else. Yeah.
It is something else. But in all those scenes, you have like these it's like 4 or 5 actors that are really featured in this, between Lydia Ann and the Countess and the 3 young men. But you see all these other prisoners that are acting in this film later on. And what's fascinating is they're putting on these roles taking place in like 1912. But when we're in the prison setting, they're nothing more than just almost like background. Before for the bishop and older Simone. And I found that so interesting. It says, because we never, ever get to know who these people are, as like, who is the actor that is playing these people. They don't have any identity other than the roles they are putting on,
extras,
which is they're just like, just like day player extras in this whole in the background of this prison chapel thing. And I found that really interesting. I didn't really think about it much until on second watch, that you're so invested in these characters like the Valier and even the Countess. But when we get into the prison, they're just there in the background, almost out of focus on the fringes of the scene, having no role at all in what's playing out between the 2 older actors, the 2 older characters. And I found that so interesting that they have nothing to say. They have nothing to add to that. And that's not a bad thing. It's just so fascinating that that's what their role is in this. I don't know. What do you guys think of that? I don't know.
No, I think it's really interesting. I think some of the actors like say a lot with their eyes when they're in the scenes. Like Brent Carver is like in the background of a lot of stuff.
Oh, he's working the whole time.
He's
slightly teary 90% of the time.
Pretty much. But I think they're all just like pawns in older Simone's plan, and it doesn't really matter where they come from. It's just like they're queer prisoners, and they're there to like tell the story.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is very theatrical convention. So many plays are people putting on plays within plays. Like Man of La Mancha is prisoners putting on the story and being affected by it in the end.
Yeah. It's interesting. One thing I noticed was, and it kind of relates to this, maybe it did to me. Nathan, you said earlier in your movie facts that this was kind of Canadian New Wave, right? There was some...
It was part of the director was part of a Toronto or Canadian. It was a group known as the Toronto New Wave, which was a group that started like in the early mid 80s through the 90s.
It's when I was watching this, it really sang to me of like some French New Wave. It reminded me a little bit of the way that, and some like Wong Kar-wai, the way that memory is played with time and the constructs of that is like a very typical New Wave wherever you are in the world kind of thing. And you could see this a lot in the costuming. Sometimes in the background of a flashback scene, you would see someone in the prison garb.
Yeah.
And you would notice their numbers, or it would be kind of the flashback scene, but you would see the chain link fence behind them. So this fabrication of, you know, memory as reality, but also as, you know, time slips away from us and just playing with time, not really knowing where in time we are, and how that relates to our memory of something, you know, as more time passes, our memories might fade and slip a little bit and they mix with our current reality and just commentary. That feels very much like Last Year at Marienbad. It feels like Hiroshima Mon Amour. It feels like In the Mood for Love. You know, all these movies that play with big, dramatic, romantic conceits, but where there's an erosion of time and memory, but it's trying to put some geometry around that to tell a story. And those lines are just so blurred that I think that could be seen as a fault of the film, or it could be seen as a brilliant way to actually tell what it's like to try and remember something.
Oh, I think nothing is by accident in this movie here, because we talk about geometry. Like there's even a moment where the two older actors, older Simone and older Bilodeau, or the Bishop, they're actually in the play, in the flashback, sitting at a dinner table.
Right.
And young Bilodeau serves him wine.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is you get further into the more emotional parts of these memories, the more those lines sort of erode, and they're trying to put the structure over it. And it's just, I think that's where this movie really shines. I can also see where that's where this movie loses its audience if they're not fully engaged. But if you're on board, I was on board. I was like, that's fucking cool.
And this is where on the first watch, I was like completely like, what the hell?
You got to restart it.
But here's the problem, and this is why I'm, you know, I don't know. I'll be honest. This episode, I don't know how many people are going to listen to our episode on Lilies. All right.
Okay. I'm glad we're talking about it just so I can process this though, because I think I'm talking it into being a 5 for me.
If people are listening to this movie, we can't emphasize enough. It has to be watched more than once, this movie.
It's so good.
Because I don't think it's possible to fully understand and be engaged with this movie with one watch. I think
Duncan, how many times have you seen this?
Maybe 4.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think that sounds about right.
Understanding things that I didn't get like the first time I watched it.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of stuff that's very clear, but then like some stuff that you only find out later on. And I love that moment where the actor playing young Bilodeau serves wine to the actual Bilodeau.
Yes.
They have this little look that goes between them. That's such a weird little, I guess you know, baby.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. I would love if we, sorry, Nathan, do you have anything?
I was going to ask Duncan a question, since you've seen this more than us. Maybe B, you might be able to answer this as well. There's a plot hole for me personally, which I just need someone to explain to me something. Why does the Countess sacrifice herself?
They don't really explain it. It's just she's tired of living, and I think she wants to let her son go be free with Simone. Like she wants to like cut herself out of it and let their romantic thing, because she takes the two of them with her to like help them escape together. And like if she was left behind, then Valier would be kind of stuck there still.
I mean, I was listening to that conversation very closely, and everything that happened right before that is when she discovers, I think, her husband's fooling around too, right? Not before.
Her husband has left her and Villiers penniless. They used to be, and so she's gone crazy. And the Lydiane, who is from Paris, where they were from, but now they're in Quebec, initially lies to the Countess and tells her, "Oh yeah, I saw your husband in Paris, and he was talking about you, and he's coming for you soon." and feeds into the Countess's delusions. But then after she's hurt so
Hurt
much,
people hurt people.
yeah, when Simone goes off with Valier and makes Lydiane cry, Lydiane strikes out at the Countess and says, "Look, I saw your husband with his new wife and their beautiful young daughter, and fuck you."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and it's the Lydiane has. I was really struck by Lydiane's lines about how people laugh at the betrayed woman on stage while she's coming to just crying, and I find myself in this, and now I'm going to make you that too, and like destroys the Countess's illusions about her husband. And I think that's partly why the Countess is ready to give it all up. Then her dreams are just shattered by Lydiane.
Okay.
Yeah, I also think there's maybe something about, I mean, there's a lot of religious imagery in this movie, right? Obviously. And what is it? I'm trying to, the play that the two, Simone and Valier and everyone are in, that's sort of the catalyst for this. It's about the martyrdom of Saint Sebastian, right? And I do think, and we know the Countess is like obsessed with this play, right? Because she sees her son sort of blossom in it, and it's love, and we can project whatever we want to project onto her for what we think her desires are, why she's so enamored with this particular production. But she is. And I think there's a little martyrdom in this act.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
She gets her son the romantic ending, hell or high water. There's an enemy involved. And then, just like on the stage, there's a death, there's a murder. So I don't know how overt it is, but I think there's something, and she's a sick woman,
Yeah. Yeah, and it should be said was like a queer imagery throughout most of art throughout the years when because he's like stripped naked and then stabbed by arrows. So people who want to paint a naked guy and make it seem like something you can make for the church, that's the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I did want to hit a little bit on some of the high points, which this kind of did, which for me, the first one was that moment between the Countess and the lady when they first meet, and she lies and says, "Oh yeah, your husband talks about you. I saw him in Paris. He's at all these highfalutin clubs." To me, that is such a protective, like communal society moment where two people who are part of the same culture, like they're just like, you know what? I know what this person needs right now. And it's maybe not what everybody would give them, but it was just so warm and protective. And so the erosion of that at the end of the movie was just so shocking and stunning. But yeah.
She tells Valier that she has lied to his mother. And not knowing that it's her son. And it's just...
But she says it, I can't remember the line, but she says it in a way that's like, knowing in a way that's like, she, when you have a relative who's old and maybe has memory issues and you just sort of help them along.
I
think it was kind of a touching moment between the two of them.
Absolutely.
Supportive.
I want to bring up one other thing before we take a break. I feel like I gotta mention the sex scene or the tub scene, because I felt that was, I found this to be, very tender. I think it's important to remember that this is 1996, a time when the erotic thriller was at the peak. We had Basic Instinct and like Sliver, Decent Proposal, Showgirls, Disclosure, Color of Night. What else? I don't know. But anyways, and when you compare Lilies to these movies, obviously these are mainstream movies with mainstream sex scenes, but homosexual sex scenes often lacked, I feel like even at this time, like affection and tenderness. But in contrast, I felt this scene in Lilies was quite beautiful. It wasn't rushed and it was very artful, and it's a rarity in cinema, especially this time for something like this.
Yeah, this
So-
was like coming on the heels of the nuclear cinema movement in like the early 90s, where like a lot of independent film became accessible to people, and specifically queer people, that they were making gay movies for gay people and not just letting the gay characters be funny stereotypes in like 80s films. And so, yeah, I think this was really an important film for that this kind of swoony romanticism could be allowed in a gay context.
Yeah.
And you get a lot of, and again, it's a play within a play, so there's a lot of context here and nuance and projection that we as an audience are putting onto it. But you see a real diversity of reaction to the homosexuality in this film. Because, I don't want our review, and I'm kind of jumping back and forth in the timeline here, but I don't want to paint it as everyone was so supportive of this relationship, no one blinked at it. There's a reason that's
beat the shit out of him.
Right. There's a reason that Simone was going with Lady, and that there was some tension in the relationship with Valet at all, even at their tender young ages. It was really, really hard for them to be together. It was really only one relative that was so supportive. And even Bilodeau, who had these feelings himself, suppressed them and went into the church and tried to follow a more traditional path, and even tried to woo Simone, who he loved from afar, who it was not reciprocated, to come with him.
Yeah, he keeps telling Simone that he needs him to like come join the priesthood with him.
Right.
Yeah.
When he's clearly in love.
Spoiler alert. Right. But it's, I mean, his father he has to see a medical professional, like at what seems like that day. I mean, it's brutal. And that's when the decision is made that it's like this is now a forbidden love. It's gone from a play and something tender and something playful and something that adults on the fringe are comfortable with and supportive of, but now it's real.
Yeah.
And when it ever gets into, whenever teases into reality, into their daily lives, into a way they could actually affect the adults that are closer to them, it's real danger, and the stakes feel really high in this movie. And it's similar. We did Portrait of a Lady on Fire last week, Duncan, and it's similar to that, where it's you kind of can feel it when they get too close to it, when they get too close to society. Suddenly the stakes get really high, but otherwise it seems like this idyllic kind of romance. Certainly the photography in the film takes a painterly view of what's happening.
All right. You know what? I'm upgrading my rating to 3.5.
Hell yeah.
All right.
One of us.
There's a lot
One of us.
Okay. That's as far as I'm going, but it's
all right. I'll take it.
All right, let's take a break here. All right. Sure. If you agree or disagree with our views, don't keep it to yourselves. Let us know your thoughts. Sharing your feedback is essential to building a community around all of our love of movies. You can do so by sending us an email at backtotheframerate@gmail.com, or finding us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Twitter. I don't call it X yet, or YouTube. Never will. We also love it if you could just take a moment and please leave a solid rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to our show. We thank you all in advance. Okay, so next we have our decisions on whether Lilies is going to be saved or purged into the fiery abyss, never to be seen or heard from again. Big stakes here. High stakes.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right. So, Duncan, what is your decision and why?
I'm keeping it because it's an important part of queer history and absolutely beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. B, you're next up.
I'm keeping all these movies, baby. They're good.
Wow, you're making me look like the bad guy for saying no. But honestly, I am, as much as I like a lot of this, I'm still kind of on the fence on this. I think
right.
This is no, okay. No offense to anyone here for picking this movie, but I don't need to save it. I will risk the scorn from my friend Duncan here for not saying yes. There'll be other movies. You know,
I think you need to see it again before really making a decision.
Third time's the charm.
Third time's the charm. But you know what? It doesn't matter because on our podcast, majority rules. And because 2 out of 3 say that it is saved, it is going to be put into our vault to be saved for the next generation after the apocalypse when we emerge, and we can show it to everybody again. So here we go. Locked away. There we go. Lilies is preserved. All right. So next up on
just for Carver's performance. Sorry.
Oh,
yeah. You know what? This movie actually made me want to seek out more films that he is in.
Mm.
Yeah.
That, if any, that's my biggest take from this. I want to see more that he's done. So
he was mostly a stage actor, but there's a couple films out there. I think.
I don't care. I need to seek out other things. Whatever he's done, he stole every scene he was in for me.
There was a recording of the Stratford Canadian company doing Pirates of Penzance where he plays the Pirate King. You want to look that shit up?
Wow,
I do.
Jeff.
Oh my god.
Special as Frederick.
I live in Boston. That means I inject Gilbert and Sullivan into my veins like a fucking dick. Yeah, I want to see that.
All right, guys, let's do our movie pairings this week.
Excuse me, can you help me? I'm in an absolute loss. I've been looking for over an hour and I'm losing my mind. What I'm in the mood for is sort of a Katharine Hepburn-y, Cary Grant-y kind of thing. Nothing heavy. I couldn't take heavy. No, something zany. I'm looking for something zany. Or something modern would be fine too, like a Goldie Hawn, Chevy Chasey kind of thing. You know, funny. I want to laugh. I have to laugh tonight, really. Oh, do you have anything with that comedian? He's on that show. It's on the radio. You know the guy, he says, hey, forgive me. I get such a kick out of the way he says that. He's so goddamn adorable. That would be perfect. Didn't he make a movie? Ordinary Peepholes.
Kind of a big titty spread cheeky kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
I cut it off before that. I don't know why, but I do. That's the movie we're supposed to get to because I won our Oscar bet and we just haven't gotten to it yet.
No, we got to do the Fisher King.
We got to do the Fisher
I gotta
King.
do a rewatch of that.
I love it. And I actually bought the 4K, Criterion 4K, like 2 months ago because we were going to watch it one week and it's just sitting there. It's still in its wrapper. Like, I got to get it. I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Duncan, do you have a pick for us this week?
Yes. A previous movie by the same director, John Greyson, from 1993, Zero Patience.
I was looking into that.
Yeah, it is sort of trying to refute the concept of patient zero in starting AIDS and spreading AIDS. And it's very Canadian as well because the alleged patient zero was a Canadian flight attendant. And it's him teaming up with Sir Richard Francis Burton, who has gone through, the Fountain of Youth and is like 100-something years old and working in a museum and making a thing about plagues throughout the years. And so the two of them, he wants to get patient zero to be his AIDS exhibit in the museum.
Sounds cool as hell.
And it's also a musical. Wow. And it has singing buttholes. It's absolutely crazy and really, really amazing. Highly recommend it.
After this pod, I have a movie for you. We'll talk.
Right on.
Movie. You had me at singing butthole.
And it looks like it's on VOD is where you can find it now.
It shows up on the Criterion channel from time to time, but I don't think it's a regular. I've seen it there before.
Okay.
Cool. Keep an eye out for it.
All right. Thank you. All right. B, you're next.
Man, I feel like I have name dropped a gajillion movies in this particular podcast, just because this does feel so, although it is super unique and niche and special, it does feel like it comes from somewhere, and I think you can feel that in the whole movie. I struggled with a pairing because there's a lot actually that I think would be great. And there's some movies that we've recommended before. I mentioned Dead Poets Society for that gentle, tender, queer, soft lighting 90s kind of thing. I think that would work. I I ended up with Laurence Olivier's Henry V for that stage and cinema kind of contrasting experience. I also think Olivier's Hamlet kind of works for this. Again, it just does feel like that tragic young romance, but Olivier's adaptation specifically really seemed to work for it. Although Alexander Chapman's lady performance, Lilian, did remind me of Mercutio and Boz's Romeo and Juliet, which was a very special performance as well. So, and a movie that is a favorite of mine. So, but yeah, I think there's a lot of directions that you could take this movie and have a great double feature day with.
Totally.
All right. That's looks like it's on Prime Video and Max and Criterion, Tubi. It's everywhere.
As it should be.
All right. So my turn. My movie pairing this week might be a little bit of a stretch because, as you just heard, I had some difficulties finding my avenue with Lilies, but I do applaud, anytime a director is telling me a story through non-conventional ways. And as much as I found the thin veil that separated the play within the movie and the inmates performing in the prison a little dizzying, it was a striking choice, and I can appreciate the effort. I love.
Didn't you tell me that was once the worst insult you could give a film?
Yep, I love
Manhattan.
I love movies about the art of performance, stories about characters who put on a show for an audience. Because as we all know, and I know you know this, Duncan, the backstage of these plays, the human dramas that are going on behind the curtain can be just as riveting as what's on stage.
Absolutely.
Hence, the movie pairing for a perfect double feature that I'm picking is Opening Night from John Cassavetes.
Oh, word. Okay.
I haven't seen this in a while, but I do believe that this is one of his best.
Yeah.
It has an electric performance from Gina Rollins, who plays an aging actress. Ben Gazzara is the director. The film is like this exploration of a lot of emotional baggage, aging, identity, guilt. There's a horrific thing that happens in the beginning that sort of sets everything in motion. Yeah, good movie. Watch it, everyone. It's on Max, Criterion, and VOD. Yeah.
Nathan, have you seen The Headless Woman, Lucretia Martel? She did La Cienega. It's sort of like a South American remake of Opening Night. It's good.
No.
I
didn't know it. Yeah.
I may or may not have it on Blu-ray. I can pass them along.
Those are our picks. You know what? If you're listening to this, let us know. If you like these picks, if you got other ones that you would suggest as double feature, we would love to know. So yeah. All right. One last segment before we're out of here, and a new segment called Weekly Highlight. Again, voluntary for everyone here, but it's just if anyone here wants to just mention something a piece of media that they watch this week. It could be movie, TV show, theater, anything. Does not matter that they took in this week that they want to share.
There's a really cool cartoon on Disney Plus called Kiff. It's about a squirrel and her best friend who's a rabbit, and it's made by these South African people, and it's really funny and really cute and clearly made for kids, but with such surreal, weird humor. It's set in this place called Tabletown, where it's talking animals, but also there are witches and centaurs and all kinds of weird magical creatures. And it's so funny. I have laughed so hard at this show. And it's very sweet and very good, but like the humor is just off the charts. Highly recommended.
K-I-F-F?
K-I-F-F. 2 F.
I just saw it, yeah.
Okay.
TV show on Disney Plus. Well, that is not what I expected, Duncan, but that's so cool. All right. What age group would you say this is targeted for? I know you're saying you're enjoying it, but what demographic, what age group are you saying this is for? Would my kids like this? I got a 12 and a 7-year-old.
I think it's like 7 or 8.
Okay.
And 32.
Yeah. Like okay, adults will enjoy it as well. Like there's some really great, really funny stuff.
Oh, awesome.
That's awesome.
All right, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. Let me ask you something. You guys up on Hundreds of Beavers?
Yeah.
I caught up on Hundreds of Beavers this week. That was weird. I liked it. I think that was a movie that could have been a TV show, but it was real goofy and real weird, and I liked it. It kind of felt like like Guy Madden meets Buster Keaton. Like I was into it. It's awesome. Nathan, if you're not up on Hundreds of Beavers, hop on, I think, Netflix. Check it out.
Okay. I found it on Hoopla.
Yeah, that's probably right. Yeah. And a TV show that could have been a movie, Baby Reindeer miniseries.
Yeah.
Really good, really fucked up, which I was into. But I do think also would have made a good.
I guess the main thing I'll mention this week, I've shared this on the podcast, that I've been slowly going through my own personal journey with the Robert Altman filmography.
Yes. Did you make it through the 80s?
I made it through the 80s, which is a rough period. But the 90s, there's a resurgence. And it started with The Player, which came out in 92.
Yeah.
And this was actually this is the first Altman film I ever watched. And
really?
It is. I have to put this
in
the pantheon of films that I credit for being probably a major influence on my career of getting into filmmaking and in that world. This stars Tim Robbins as a studio producer who gets caught up in covering up a murder, of a murder of a writer. This movie is so many things. It's steeped in, Hollywood culture and history with more references than it's possible to keep track of. I think there are 65 cameos from known actors playing themselves in this film. But the cast also is awesome, like Fred Ward and Whoopi Goldberg, Brian James,
Peter Gallagher,
replicant, and Peter Gallagher, Cynthia Stevenson, Vincent D'Onofrio, Richard E. Grant also. Richard E. Grant and Dean Stockwell play this tandem who are pitching this movie idea to Tim Robbins, and they're so good, just trying to get him to make this movie. And it's just, it's really just about the commentary in the Hollywood system, the power dynamics and the struggle of art versus commerce, celebrity culture, basically in the superficiality of it all too. So highly entertaining. I haven't seen it probably in like 15, 18 years. And it's probably, I think, still Altman's most accessible film. I mean, I don't know if it's his best, but you can just put it on and it's so easy to follow because it's popcorn. The movie's popcorn. So
that's a cool. Yeah, it's a big deal, Nathan.
Yeah. So I'm about to go on to the next movie is Shortcuts, which I have never seen.
I've never seen. Have you seen, Duncan?
No, I have not actually.
Okay.
I have seen Prêt-à-Porter, which is the one after that.
Which is Ready to Wear, which I don't know if this is the American translation. I saw that a long time ago. I don't remember anything, but this is now the 26th out of 35 or 36 features. I'm in the home stretch.
Yeah.
My goal is to finish these before the end of the summer because I think I finished the whole filmography once a year. I can do it.
You got Gosford Park coming up.
I love Gosford Park. I like his last two a lot. I like Prairie Home Companion and Gosford Park a lot. So those will be easy. But there's a whole bunch in the late 90s I have not seen. I have not seen The Gingerbread Man. I have not seen Kansas City. I have not, like I said, I haven't seen Shortcuts. There's one other in there I haven't seen. So it'll be a fun fourth.
I know Porter's good though too. Though you do have that Forrest Whitaker, right?
Yeah, he's in that.
Yeah.
That's one that's a whole bunch of different cameos. Linda Hunt.
And the last thing I'll just say, and I'm going to save this for maybe a more featured review because on our YouTube channel I do release reviews on my own. I saw Inside Out 2.
I'm seeing that this week.
I won't say much about it, but big thumbs up. I will say thumbs up on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I did like it a lot, and the wait was worth it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I should say I'm actually seeing Zero Patience on the big screen. Alamo is showing it, and I'm seeing it on Wednesday.
In New York?
In New York, the Sony Theater? The Sony Draft House?
I will, if there's a movie I love, I will drive to New York to go and see it. So that is tempting. I drove to Metrograph for The Great Silence, the spaghetti western. Corbucci is one of my favorite films. And then The Angelica, which I don't love The Angelica, but The Angelica was doing Asteroid City, which I went to go see. That was fun.
4 years ago, I was in New York City for the film week. So it was like the independent like film conference.
Cool.
And I stayed an extra day, and I just spent the entire day in Brooklyn, and I saw 5 movies at the Alamo Draft House there.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
One of which I think was Miles Davis, the cool, what was it? The biopic about Miles Davis from like 5 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
The one with Denzel?
No, it wasn't a biopic. Sorry, it was a documentary. No. Oh man, blanking on it.
Hang on, I'm going to know.
And as you pull that up, it's one of the best documentaries I've ever seen in my life.
There's Miles Ahead or
Miles Davis. Great podcasting going on here. It's called Birth of the Cool. It is Birth of the Cool. It is amazing. And I saw Quadrophenia.
Nice.
It's really good, actually. It's not my favorite Who album, but seeing it, I actually had a great time. It was a midnight screening of Quadrophenia at the Draft House.
That's pretty fun.
Which was interesting.
A midnight screening of anything can really bring out the best. I saw who is it? The Starman. And that was really good at Coolidge Corner Theater. That was a fun one.
Starman is my second favorite Carpenter.
Really? Okay, I really love In the Mouth of Madness. It's great.
That's the first Carpenter movie I ever saw.
It's good. It's really fucking scary. Yeah.
I saw Clue at the screening, and that was fucking amazing.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Packed house.
Yeah. I would rather go to that than a Rocky Horror screening, I think. I know.
Duncan, before we go, please just one last time. First of all, I want to thank you again for joining us this evening for our discussion of Lilies. I hope you had a good time.
Yeah. Lots of fun.
Will you join us again sometime if we call upon you?
Past and future guest.
If you want to do Zero Patience for next year's Pride, let me know.
Not saying no.
All right. Well,
not saying no. We could we've done apocalyptic themes before. We could do plague breakout movies. That'd be a fun March memory.
All right. Duncan, one last time, please share with the audience where the best way of finding you.
Yeah.
Besides your home.
Best place is DuncanPflaster.com, DuncanPflaster.com. Or you can find me pretty much, I'm on most of the socials. I'm on Blue Sky, if anybody's still using that. It was a Twitter alternative that some people started using.
The one that Donald Trump uses?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Okay, good. Great. And everyone out there, please check out Pansy Vision, which comes out once a week. Is your episode out already?
Yeah, the first episode I wrote is out. It's a biblical epic. I think it came out 2 weeks ago.
Great. So I encourage everyone to check that out. I'm going to watch it as soon as I can. And good stuff. I look forward to seeing more of what you do. Hopefully I'll get down to New York sometime. I'll get to hang with you and see one of your productions live in the flesh sometime. We'll see. Yeah. All right. Very good. Okay. Well, thank you for dialing into our transmission. Oh my God, that is the wrong thing here. That is our show this week. Back to the Frame Rate is part of the Western Media Podcast Network. We also wish to thank Brian Ellsworth for our show opening. On behalf of all of us, we bid you farewell from the Fallout Shelter. Your presence in our underground sanctuary is truly appreciated. We are truly sorry you cannot join us, but we want to express our gratitude for your company. If you're finding solace in our discussions, we kindly ask that you please subscribe. Leave a rating and review. You can find more episodes of this podcast on backtotheframerate.com. And our handle on our socials is backframerate. Your support is the beacon of light that brightens our confined space. Head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever.
Next Spotify. Big music.
Yeah. Or whichever portal connects you to our broadcast and share your thoughts. Until we emerge from the fallout, stay with us. Keep hope alive and keep those reviews coming. Back to the Frame Rate, signing off.
want you to know it's over.